Okay, so we are doing our first kind of COVID interview, and today I've got Neillie Butler and Louise Pritchard from Mariee Ami events in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. And a little bit about Mariee Ami is that since 2009, correct?
Yeah.
Neillie is the
Yep.
inception date, and we've been working together for a long time at this point. But you are not just confined to Alabama or the 205. You are doing events all over the country, kind of Pebble Beach, Maine, and Florida, you name it, the Carolina coast, and so forth,
Right.
Montana. You're everywhere.
Right.
But jump in, Neillie, and tell us a little bit about Mariee Ami.
Okay. So we obviously started in 2009 with the ambition of just trying to, be a simple wedding planning. I was by myself, and after a year in business, it quickly realized that this was actually going to be something. And as years went on, we kind of grew the team, Louise being the first real employee to ever walk in the door. And then we have grown our team to a size of 8 now, and we do weddings all over the world. So we love staying in the United States, but every now and then heading over to Italy isn't so bad.
Does not suck, as I say.
Yeah. So, we're based here in Birmingham, like you said, and we have a lot of Birmingham wonderful clients. It's certainly the market that grew our business. But it's been awesome just to see our service be all referral, and, maybe it's a bridesmaid who was from Texas that we got to do her wedding, or a New York girl who we did her wedding in Utah, or, like the Pebble Beach. I would do anything to go back to Pebble Beach. That was fabulous. But we're a full service planning company, and we have loved working with East Coast the whole time. So
yay.
yeah, the best fans.
Shameless self-promotion. I've got the hat on, and I'm also sporting the Pebble Beach, golf shirt today.
Good.
Really horrible golfer. Louise, how'd you get into the business?
Oh man, I went to school thinking I wanted to work in the event industry, but for a big corporate company. And someone suggested my graduation from college was the tornado that came through Tuscaloosa, and our teacher said, school's done. You can take your grades as it is, leave town, get out of here. So I moved to Birmingham, not having any clue, what I was going to do. And someone told me to go talk to Neillie, and I basically knocked on her door, and she said, I don't think you really are going to enjoy working for big companies as much as you think you are. Working for men is not always that fun. And why don't you come work a wedding with me? And I worked a wedding, and then I was hooked, and I basically just kept showing up until she figured that I should have a real job. I just kept knocking on the door. Like,
she was working for free, so it was pretty awesome. But I eventually had to pay her, and she's definitely not free anymore. So
Nothing
she's
wrong
worth
with
it.
that.
She's worth every penny.
Yeah, I think sometimes we are always underestimating what our worth is in this world with special events. I think you're seeing it now with the way COVID-19 has brought our world to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
And it's now, how do we save events? How do we move forward, postpone, reschedule, and still keep our clients' dreams intact and with a whole new reality? Tell us a little bit about how has COVID-19 impacted Mariee Ami's, schedule for the spring and into the summer?
Yeah. So, I mean, as everyone knows, the wedding season is, March, April, May, June. And so the fact that we are living through COVID during what should be the busiest time of our year has drastically impacted the whole industry. You had these big elaborate weddings planned, and within a 24-hour notice, they all came to a screeching halt, like you said. And so I feel like I have been there's a little bit of a wave that we've been riding, in the sense that those first 48 hours of when COVID kind of presented itself, we were in survival mode, and let's get these weddings rescheduled, reschedule, do not cancel. A lot of these weddings had been paid for in full. Our clients are looking at large investments into these big events. And so we were able to postpone them the biggest question then was, when can we postpone and still feel safe? Because at that point, none of us really knew, was this going to be 2 weeks? Is it going to be 6 months? Like what were we looking at? And so, Louise, and along with the rest of our team, stayed up for 48 hours just trying to figure out, how can we pick up these weddings that we've planned and our clients have paid for and move to another date. And we, that's, the band's got to be available, the venue, the photographer, the cake, every vendor down to hair and makeup, all had to have that date available, which fall is also a busy wedding season. So it was the tiniest piece puzzle in a million piece big picture of trying to get that to work. And my team was very successful because we moved really fast. Obviously, with your help, I think we called you and emailed you for literally 2 days straight, but we were able to get that first group moved. And so then it was like we took a deep breath, and we didn't schedule anything before the end of July. So now I feel like we're faced with, okay, are these July weddings going to happen? And then you kind of are looking, you have more of a lead time with these families that they're just very still uncertain as what is the fall going to look like. And so it's a completely different ball game of trying to figure out, when is the last minute possible we can, wait to change another date.
What is that wedding going to look like?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, did you find some of your clients were opting to move to a non-traditional Saturday, like a Friday or Sunday?
Yeah, and we had some of that, especially when you had to have a venue and a band or whatever, that Friday or Saturday, Friday or Sunday worked better, and we moved a few to that. And surprisingly, everybody was just very willing, and from the vendors and to the clients, let's just get this rescheduled. And so when we got it rescheduled and we took that deep breath, I think Louise is right in saying we're now faced with also like, okay, we thought when we postponed it for July, we were going to be fine, but what if we really can have this wedding in July, but what is that going to look like if we have to do social distancing? And so there's just so many what ifs that we don't really know, and we're having to take it day by day.
So you're bringing up an interesting point with the social distancing and what's the impact of COVID-19 on the way a wedding post COVID-19 looks, or what's the experience? So, I mean, Louise, what are some of the things, or have you guys become innovative in trying to do something different? Obviously your typical serving stations, activation stations, as far as food service is going to change and look different. Is the way that you're seating guests, or that whole experience, or a dance floor. Client?
The sheer setup. How are we going to set it up so where it flows? Where you're always worried about a bottleneck when people walk in, but now we really can't have a bottleneck. So do we need some more flowing space in the front of the room so that as people get in, they can disperse? Food service is a big thing. We've been thinking a lot about that. If, trying to put a fun spin on it, okay, they have to wear gloves, which may not be the, most luxurious looking thing. Can they wear white gloves? Can it be, can we make it look nice? Dance floor, I haven't, still trying to wrap my head around that one.
More space.
More space.
We used to have kind of a standard go-to dance floor size, which if can we make it bigger so that people can dance? Because let's be honest, every girl that walks into this office, we say, what's the most important thing to you? And she says, I want a good band and I want to dance. And so,
they do.
And they don't want to have the wedding. If the rules say, I know that there's one venue right now that if a wedding takes place in the next couple of weeks, they're going to not allow dancing. Well, our clients are not going to have that. They'd rather postpone, and when they can have their dream wedding, which is to dance to the big band that they've hired. So if we can just make it maybe towards the end of the summer, if we can have just bigger dance floors where people can feel like they're spreading out, I really feel like it'll be up to the guest on how they're interpreting this. Are they nervous about the disease? If they're super nervous, they're not going to come.
Well, so are you already seeing impacts in guest list, or trying to size it down because we are moving forward in July or August with a rescheduled date, And I mean, I would imagine it would be a nightmare to have to go through and say, we have invited these 250 guests, and
Yeah.
now I have to go to my top 150 and send that email or have that phone call.
No, we haven't seen that. I hope it doesn't get to that. You know, with us being in the South, I mean, our clients throw big weddings.
Right.
And again, that's also an important thing. They don't want to do this if they can't do it with the people that they love. Thankfully, Louise, speak up if I'm wrong, but I feel like our guest list counts have not been quite as high as they typically have been in the past, out of just pure luck. You're looking at a lot of weddings that are in the 250 mark rather than the 550 mark, which we've done for years. And so,
I don't know if you find 550 people. I don't know if 550.
Yeah, but I was speaking with,
we have them, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I was speaking with one of the club managers last night, and you know, at one of the country clubs here in town, and the space is huge, and they've just built a new patio. So being able to just spread out, I think will work if we can get it going.
So are you, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but are you seeing people opt more for an outdoor tented experience over, you know, something that's maybe more confining, like a country club ballroom?
I mean, I think if you have the luxury of making that choice, then yes, an outdoor tent would probably be a little safer with more breeze, et cetera. But the problem is all these people have been locked in for plans for a year. So they were
easy to change.
Yeah, they can't change the museum. The museum is what it is, and that's where their wedding is. So like Louise said, we're going to have to go in and just replace things and size it. I have not seen anyone look to make a smaller guest count, you know, and not yet, at least.
Rick, I will say you asked about like the Fridays and Saturdays and like opting for a smaller guest count. Each one of our girls is very different, and they have all done and chosen something different on how to move forward. But a few of them have decided to still go ahead and get married on their date with immediate family in their backyard or, you know, on the steps of their front church. And those picked Fridays instead of, you know, like they were like, oh, sure, we can have a Friday because we're going to go ahead and get married and we're going to have a postponement celebration. So like that, I think that's kind of been our girls' way of having something smaller now. And then
let's get married. Let's not push the whole ceremony.
Yeah.
I've had a few people even have called me where they have decided to go a year later, and it's become, we're going to celebrate our first anniversary.
Yeah. We're doing a lot of that.
Terrific idea.
Yeah, and I just got off a call with that's exactly what they were going to do, and they're going to have a small ceremony and kind of a small reception this year. You know, with a very limited number of people. So, like we said, that's how they're dropping their guest list, but they're still going to invite all their original guest count to next year's one-year party.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense to me. Now, as far as your destination weddings that you guys are involved with producing, do you see post-COVID, or do you have more or do you have less? Because I know sometimes when people do plan a destination, the guest list seems to be a little bit smaller. It's harder to coordinate with 500 people if you're going to Charleston, South Carolina, or the Bahamas, or wherever it might be. What have you had many of those discussions?
Well, you know, we do a fair amount of destination weddings, and those were ones that we ended up postponing. Like before we had decided to postpone July weddings, we went ahead and postponed a July 4th wedding because it was out in Montana, with the idea that everybody has to fly and everybody has to stay. Right. Those, I feel like the destination weddings, no matter what time they've been planned for this year, have moved. You know, we had an Italy wedding scheduled for September. No one's going to Italy this year. And so I you know, that couple is looking at somewhere in the United States. She still wants a destination wedding, but she'll do it next year, destination. But the idea of going overseas right now is just, they don't even want to think about that for next year. It's too complicated. It's too risky. We don't even know what next year is going to look like. And so, but the other destination, like the Montana one, we just scheduled it for the July 4th of the next year.
Gotcha.
2021. So whenever we can avoid a lot of people flying, that I think that's been an issue. The other thing that we have going on is we have a wedding in Virginia, and a lot of the guests were coming out of New York. So while they may be able to have, like, it's just that people are having to come from New York is a hard thing. And do we really want to hunt? So we've postponed that one. So there's like Louise said, every wedding is different. So it's been interesting to see them all.
In looking at the different, websites and publications that are out there, I've seen a few twists on your typical wedding reception because of COVID-19 and unique items that planners are suggesting. Is there anything that you guys have done or thinking about? Is it the hand sanitation or sanitizer? Sorry, excuse me. Stations that you're going to do, or is it anything special or signage? Maybe the ushers will hold a sign down and with an arrow to where to go, or I don't know. I think in this, if you want to call it a tragedy or a hiccup in our business, it's an opportunity for somebody to come up with some innovative ideas, and I always like to have fun with it. If you can, but are you seeing anything? Have you suggested anything to your clients yet?
We obviously the hand sanitizer stations and the matching mask and, maybe little boxes of the cake and, those ideas. But honestly, I feel like as a team, we haven't really focused on that quite yet, just because deep down, we're still hopeful that we won't have to do as much of that when we reschedule. There's things that we love about our weddings and how nice they are and how they flow. And I would love to see those weddings come back and us not have to all wear masks. But we've certainly thrown out the ideas of what we're going to have to do. And but we might just also play it by ear as we get closer and closer to each date, because the rules change every day.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I know Alabama and Georgia have been two states that have been a little bit more lenient on reopening and guidelines there. Although in Georgia, you still can't go to live music venues or clubs or anything like that. I've had a few clients who've decided, we're going to do this at our hunting plantation or a property or wherever, the family farm, where they can get around some of the restrictions being on private property and kind of work it from there, which I think is always cool. But do you see, Louise, jump in here on this one. Are you suggesting live streaming to any of your clients as far as like ceremony, where mom or grandma, granddad can't get there?
So I've had two weddings, or we've had a few, but weddings that have already happened with just immediate family that was able to be there. One of them wasn't necessarily going to have a videographer, had one come in, and we videoed it, and they, can show their friends and family that weren't able to be there. They can send it out. They can post it so people can see it. They did live stream like a few friends in, but I think that you forget how many things are affected by this. Like back when you were talking about like the ushers, like that's contact. That's person-on-person contact. The sign-in book, that is such a staple of a wedding. Like, is everyone going to touch that pen? Just little things have been, trying to think of new ways of doing it is hard. But the live stream is a great option for those who are going to go ahead and get married and can post it.
I don't think, Rick, though, we're going to suggest that instead of what we were planning. Like, yeah. I think we would suggest it to go along with your traditional celebration, whenever that may be. It's not going to replace it. There's no, people aren't going to dance in their living room.
Yeah. It's not. Even on our side of the business, for larger corporate events, we're discussing like drive-in concerts. How do you do that? Can you live stream this to donors that may be a gala type event and they have the opportunity to participate, but they can't be there for whatever reason. And it's definitely changed our landscape. I appreciate you guys taking time to do this. I don't want to keep you, and everyone's busy. The website's Mariee, Mariee, Ami, AMI.com.
Yep.
If anybody wants to check you out,
Thank you.
These do a fantastic and phenomenal job with executing details, and are two of the finest wedding planners and event coordinators I've ever worked with.
Well, back at you.